everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Plug in Play podcast. I am your host, Henry, and we have a big show for you today. We have Gamescom Opening Night Live. We'll be going through every single game announced during the showcase. We've got Netflix shutting down studios. We've got PlayStation shuffling off their live service Horizon game into a totally different thing. We've got the Duskbloods Open Network test impressions. We'll just call it a beta because, come on, that's just way easier to say. And we've got a lot of other great things set up for you. GTA leaks. Did I mention GTA? Hey! That's what anybody who's anybody cares about. You probably wouldn't have clicked on this episode if it wasn't GTA related. So we're going to be talking about that too. But before we get into all that wonderful, juicy content, my friends, maybe you didn't know, but we're on all your favorite podcasting services. That's right, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podcast Addict, whatever the heck you're feeling. We're there, and you can give us a follow on all those platforms and a review. 5 stars is preferable. It's up to you, really, to make the call, but I would highly encourage 5 stars. I personally think I put out a 5-star podcast every single time. It's never subpar. The charm and charisma I exude when talking about video games as another white guy on the internet is unparalleled. Perhaps that's why only 5 people listen to it. But on top of that, you can also find us on Twitter and X, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, all under the name Plug in Play Pod 1. You can leave a comment there. I'll read it out on the show. And your support means the world there. If you also want to leave a comment directly, you can slide into my DMs, and you can send me an email at pluginplaypodcast1@gmail.com. I'll read it out on the show as well. While you're down in the description for that, you can also find timestamps. That's right. If you want to hear something more than I'm talking about right now, you can jump right to it with those magical technical doohickeys that some nerd at Google figured out, probably. And if you don't like something I'm saying, you can just skip right past it. I do it for you. It's a labor of love. And my favorite new thing to just say, it doesn't actually hold any consequence because no one will ever do this, but you can use code PLUGINPLAY, that's right, to get 10% off your drink or your order of Dubby Energy Drink. That's right, Dubby, the number one in the plug-in-play. Well, I can't actually say that. We'll get to that in a second. But the number one best energy drink that was the first sponsor of Plug in Play podcast. That's right, Dubby Energy Drink. They've got anime characters on cups. They've got flavors based on anime characters. They've got creamsicle flavor. What do you want? It's Plug in Play. Just use the code Plug in Play, the letter N, Plug in Play. Use that code and get 10% your off order. Do it now. And wait, there's more. Plug in Play is now sponsored also by Advanced Energy Drink. That's right. You didn't think I could be sponsored by 2 energy drink supplements? You were wrong. They were all wrong. Everyone was wrong about the Plug and Play podcast because now I'm an official partner with Advanced Energy Drink. You can use the same code, Plug in Play, on their website, and you will get 10% off your order. They've got freaking Dippin' Dots flavored energy drink. Come on. Number 1 bestseller, Dippin' Dots flavored energy drink. I mean, come on. They've also got anime characters on cups. You ever heard of Gachiakuta? Bro. The hottest new anime that all 14-year-olds who hate their parents love? Frick yeah, dude. You can get a cup with that on it. That's crazy. Okay. So please do that. And I will get the 10%. So that's why if you ever hear a code, it's because they're getting that cut, that juicy cut. I mean, if everybody else is out here making money, come on. I gotta make the dough too. I gotta make the same money. You people holding out on me as a content creator out here. Apparently, gamers are just suckers for energy drink. They are apparently every gamer just needs something to satisfy their Mountain Dew cravings of like excess sugar and caffeine. I don't know what it is about gamers that like we are just naturally drawn to that, but these energy drink brands, that's all they're trying to advertise to. Like they are only trying to advertise to gamers. If you like anime and video games, like you're apparently the number one demographic for drinking energy drink. So please use my code. Plug the letter in play. At your earliest convenience to get your either Dubby or advanced energy drink, or both. Would be cool. You could be the coolest kid on the block if you bought both of them. Come on, right? But anyways, let's get into the show. The part of the show. So, it is Gamescom Live Week, ladies and gentlemen. That's right, Gamescom. We all know Gamescom, right? It is quickly becoming the de facto, like, one, it's hosted by Jeff Keighley, who's also the host of like basically the new E3 Summer Games Fest, and it has kind of become the other E3. It is in Germany, and that's really, I think, the only thing that's stopping it from being like not a huge mega deal is it's in Germany. It's not in America, it's not in some other major country. I mean, Germany is a major country, but you get it. It's not in freaking some super heavy populated area. So Gamescom is basically the new E3 in August, in a way. They have a big conference that they're going to talk about, and you may say, Henry, you sound like you're talking future tense. I'm listening to this episode right now, and you have a segment in which you talk about the entire conference. Yeah, because that hasn't happened yet. I am unfortunately, I hope you're okay. This episode's coming out on a Wednesday. You know that because you're literally, I mean, you can see when the date it was posted. It was posted on a Wednesday. That's because normally I post episodes at like 4 o'clock in the morning because that's what I read was best for video game podcasts on Tuesday. I don't know why that is, but I have no better understanding of social media and why people do things. So like that was what I've stuck with since I started posting the podcast. In this case, Gamescom opening night live, because it's in Germany, it's not going to happen at the same time it would here, but it will happen like in the afternoon on Tuesday, which in that case will be much later than I will normally post the podcast. So not only will it happen and then I'll have to record, but then I got to edit and I'll do all that fun stuff, all that fun behind the scenes nonsense you viewers love to hear about. But in this case, it's just easier for me to wait for Tuesday, watch the thing, record the thing, upload the thing Wednesday, obviously. So that's what I'm going to be doing. Because typically I do an episode every other week, and this news is going to be cold as ice by the time I have to talk about it in 2 weeks. So that's why we're going to be talking about it. It's going to be a long episode, though. We got a lot of news. I actually trimmed down the impressions segment because I was like, bro, there's too much. There's too much happening here. I know for a fact this is probably going to go over an hour and a half just talking about what I'm talking about. And then we're going to have also the entire Gamescom segment, which is going to be easily over an hour because I'm going to be talking in depth about every game that I've seen or impressions of every game that I've seen in the entire conference. So we'll get to that eventually. Okay. But I am back from my vacation. That is, of course, if you're a frequent listener, you know that I had actually an episode come out each week over the past 2 cycles of releases because I would have been out of town during that time. So I did. I posted an episode a week early. And I hope you enjoyed it. It was a little bit shorter than usual, but I like that because it's less work for me to edit. And in general, I'm back. I'm refreshed. I'm here. I played some games on the Switch too while I was out. Came back, and now I'm here to talk about video games with you. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get into some real video game talk, all right? Not just all this scheduling nonsense everybody loves to hear about. But let's start off with the comment corner. That's right, where we interact with you. You, that's right, you, the audience, where you can leave a comment on any social media platform that you seem to enjoy more than others for whatever reason. And if I believe you said something interesting, worthwhile, conversation worthy, then I will read it on the show and I will talk about it for whatever reason. So in this case, last week I posted a short about Beast of Reincarnation. That is the new Game Freak game, their first foray into a more AAA-ish. I think people would definitely debate that word used for this game, but more significant departure from what they're used to doing. It's an 3D action open world game, open area game more so, is from what I'm hearing. But in this case, it did not review well. It's about a 71 on Metacritic, which is no bueno. That's typically not very good. A lot of people, however, are a little defensive about this. Because if you didn't know, Game Freak makes Pokemon, which is probably one of the most devout fan bases I've ever seen. And it's funny because, like, I know people who doesn't like Pikachu, right? I mean, we all live in a Pokemon world. Pokemon, I get it. I'm here for it. The problem is that I didn't know people liked it as much as they did. Like, people are just like, yeah, I fully am okay with how Pokemon is handled, even though there's clearly and objectively some bad parts about it. People will, from what I have learned, significantly defend Game Freak, who makes the Pokemon games. Game Freak has occasionally strayed out and made different games outside of the Pokemon brand. They have all not been received favorably. In fact, the vast majority of the most recent Pokemon games have all had significant issues, and outside of the Pokemon diehards, everyone is very easy to say, hey, maybe they need more money or more time, or they just need to take a step back and think about how they're developing Pokemon games, because they're not really they're not revolutionizing anything every game, and they're all kind of now like a technical buggy mess because they simply don't have the infrastructure in place to keep up with these releases and what's going on inside of them. So there's a lot going on with Pokemon that I can get into another day, but we're not going to do that. Here, we have a man defending Beasts of Reincarnation. I haven't played Beasts of Reincarnation, but reviews essentially were low enough that I'm like, there's no way I'm touching this thing. Why would I touch this thing that is a 7 out of 10? People seem to be universally mixed, if not, I don't even think it's mixed. Normally when you say, oh, well, it's mixed, it's like, well, somebody gave it a 4 and somebody gave it a 10. Like, that's kind of what mixed means. Beast of Reincarnation is not that. It's like everybody gave it a 7. Like, everybody. It's not mixed. It's like everybody just thought this game was eh. And that's a much more interesting place to be, because it means everybody thinks that this game has problems, which is not a good place to be. At least with somebody giving it a 10 out of 10 in a mixed quote unquote circumstance, you have people saying, hey, there's at least somebody out there. There's an audience for it somewhere. Beasts of Reincarnation doesn't seem to be that. So a lot of people commented on these clips and they said, hey, you're retarded because you think a 7 out of 10 game is really, really bad. And I think, honestly, a 7 out of 10 game at this point in time is like, it's just not playable. I don't believe that if you have a 7 out of 10 game, you should be playing a 7 out of 10 game. There's just too many other great games out there for anybody to want to engage with a 7 out of 10 game. But in this case, let's see what Mr. LeeBot64 over on TikTok has to say. He says, and I quote, 7 out of 10 games being looked at as bad is one of the lousiest takes modern gaming has come upon. Everyone looks at a PS2 era as one of the best times in gaming, and it was. However, it was in large part to the amount of games being released and how many 7 out of 10 games they're still being looked at that are still being looked at fondly. Many of the hidden gems or cult classics of the era were ranked 7 out of 10 at the time, but weren't tossed based on that alone. So, where do we start here? We start with, okay, there were not that many games being released on the PlayStation 2 era, especially considered if you compare to now. You're having hundreds of games being released monthly now, if you include Steam, which is, let's be real, probably releasing hundreds of garbage shovelware games, but just even if you include Steam, there are dozens of games coming out every week. Oftentimes, they are reviewed fairly favorably. And 7 out of 10 game, I think back then, maybe could have survived as a cult classic. But I think even now we have examples of that. Did you know people didn't like Demon Souls when it came out? It was kind of a meh game. Admittedly, I think it's like an 81-ish on OpenCritic. Or not I think OpenCritic didn't exist. But Metacritic back in the day. So it was like kind of considered like good, not great. And now it's considered like that entire franchise is considered one of the best gaming franchises of all time, a critical darling. Elden Ring, which is now the kind of successor of all that, is now one of the best rated games of all time. So, like it's hard to say that still doesn't happen now, that games come out and people think they're not that good, and then kind of over time people warm up to them. I think it's harder now because there's so many games. But here, this is the main point I want to make to this. It is hard for me to not emphasize this enough, and I want to emphasize this enough. But something we have to say is that 7 out of 10 games now is just not enough. If you're a 7 out of 10 game, there is simply no reason for me to play you. Do you know how many 8 out of 10 games we have now? Out of the hundreds of games that come out weekly, monthly, thousands yearly, there are a good number. Do you know how many hours in a day I have? Nowhere near enough to play every game that comes out. I have to start killing some games off the list. And where do I start? Probably the 7 out of 10. And I get like we have a weird rating scale, okay? We have the American ABCD letter grade scale here when we use video games. We don't use 5 and below, we don't use, okay? So you have to be really freaking bad to be anywhere below a 5. But 7 out of 10, we'll say, is average. That means there's some good things here, there's some bad things. I don't care. A 7 out of 10 is definitively not good enough anymore when I have dozens of games coming out every year that are getting critical praise, universal approval from many, many different people, 85 plus on Metacritic. Why in God's name would I ever touch a 7 out of 10? I think if you're touching a 7 out of 10, it should be designed specifically for you. Like, you are the audience it is designed exactly for. And if that is not you, you should never touch a 7 out of 10 game. We just simply don't have the time anymore. We have too many awesome games that come out far too frequently that you will never be able to play all of them. So if you're sitting here saying a 7 out of 10 actually isn't that bad, okay? Like, I don't know what you're talking about. 7 out of 10 is actually pretty cool. We need to take a step back and we need to say, sir, I am sorry. I don't know why you feel your time is not valuable. Because it is. Like, you have a finite amount of time on this world, and you should not be wasting it on a 7 out of 10 game unless that game is designed exactly to meet your tastes. And there are 7 out of 10 games out there that I even play. I'm a 3D platformer guy. So, I will play 3D platformer games that are 7.5, whatever, out of 10, because I know that that's my genre, right? I don't look at Beasts of Reincarnation and say, this is somebody's genre. Like, this is obviously a flawed game. It has things that need to be fixed that are not good with it. And it's not like, oh, well, I can overlook these flaws kind of flaws. It's like, oh, no, like they are flaws. Like I think universally critics have panned Beasts of Reincarnation for not being good in various elements. All of them. It's not just one guy. Like it's all of them. So it's not a mixed thing. It's an obvious thing. So when we get to the bottom of it, we really have to say 7 out of 10, maybe average in terms of how we kind of rate games, which isn't bad, but it is not good enough. 7 out of 10 games in this day and age is just simply not good enough. So I got a lot of comments about that, by the way. Probably went on way too long. I think I built up to that for far too long. But like the end result of this is I've discussed this before, and I've specifically talked about how we rate games as a gaming community and how like I think it is a little weird how we're just like, yeah, I guess 1 through 5 really doesn't exist. Like if you're a 5, you just suck, and if you're a 7, you're average, and if you're a 10, you're perfect. Like that's really kind of how we rate games. And I don't think that's right necessarily, but I also think that that's like just how the gaming community has adapted. And if you're like, that's how we obviously rate things. Like if you look at how movies are rated and if you look at how games are rated, you go to Metacritic, like a 7 out of 10 movie on Metacritic is actually a pretty good movie. like most people liked it, but like if you see like a 3 out of 10 movie, like that means it's like mixed. Like that's typically what I kind of see over on Metacritic. I don't really follow movies super closely in terms of reviews. But that's kind of what I see. Is like the scale goes way lower. Like a 10 out of 10 movie on Metacritic doesn't exist. Like a 9 out of 10 Metacritic movie does not exist on Metacritic for movies at all. It just doesn't. But like games, we have no games that are like 1, 2, and 3s. Like those don't exist. But we have all the stuff at the high end is all where we're at. So we typically use that grading scale, the letter grading scale, kind of how we deal with stuff in the gaming industry, which I feel like has just led people who like 7 out of 10 games to cope and be like, no, it's really average. It's like, okay, well, maybe it's average, but to me, that's not good enough. Like, that's simply not good enough. I do not have time for a 40-hour average game. Like, that's just stupid. When I have a bunch of other 120-hour great games I need to get to or something like that. Like, I'm looking at freaking Xenoblade 2, 3, and X over there. Like, oh, frick. Everybody says those games are amazing, but I got to commit 50, 100 hours of my life to playing them all. I can watch every like freaking 10 out of 10 movie in like a year. Like, I can't do that with freaking video games. It's not literally physically possible to do that. So I don't know. People like to freak out about that. I simply cannot agree less. I cannot agree less. So that's our comment corner. Thank you to Mr. 64. Thank you also to the N64, the Nintendo 64, for giving everyone a reason to put 64 at the end of their username forever online. So thank you for that as well. But let's move on to the news. That's right. We didn't need the question mark there. It is the news segment, ladies and gentlemen. We have several big stories I'd like to delve into for you. So let's start off with Netflix is shutting down the Oxenfree studio. That's right, Night School Studio. Just 6 weeks after its last game was released. So not the first time we've heard of a studio shutting down right after their game was released. In all honesty, 6 weeks is like very, very kind. I've seen several stories of studios being shut down literally the day a game came, like literally Bethesda was hit with layoffs right after their Doom expansion was there. The studio wasn't shut down. There was that JRPG. It's not Tales. But it was one of the it was a JRPG from Square Enix that released a few years ago. They shut down the studio immediately after the game launched. So clearly wasn't expecting anything else out of them. But like this is 6 weeks is pretty good. You got 6 weeks of of just kind of being able to chill after your game comes out. That's nicer than a lot of freaking publishers out there. So they shut down Oxenfree Studio. Not only that, but they shut down Finnish studio Moonloot, who we'll only briefly mention here because in this case it was founded in 2022. It was working on an Animal Crossing style game. It never came out. They've never made anything else. So we really didn't lose anything of value per se at Moonloot. So the real story here is about Night Studio, or Night School Studio, who's made Oxenfree, like I said in the past. Also, After Party was another game. They've kind of made more point and click adventure, you'd kind of almost call them, narrative focused games, which is, I see, an obvious reason why Netflix would want to acquire them. Under Netflix, they produced Oxenfree 2, Stranger Things spin-off game Thronglets, which I've never heard of, and then they just recently put out Unhinged, which is a game I actually heard about. It had a couple of big names in it, actually, some like Hollywood, and I believe Troy Baker was in it as well. Very big video game actor. In this case, it was an interactive horror game designed to be played through Netflix's cloud streaming service, where the player uses their phone to act as a controller and the protagonist's actual phone in the game. It seemed like an interesting idea to me on paper. It's just that I never go on Netflix anyways, so it's just never in front of me. It was never a priority. I heard people talking about it, but I never heard like, oh, this is a game of the year or something like that. So I was intending to get around to it eventually, but never did, and probably will never, because as I was talking about earlier, there's too many games out there to play. I will never get around to all of them, and God help me. And this is all coming from GameFile. So a Netflix spokesperson told GameFile that it was focusing its attention more on party games, story-driven games aimed at children, and titles with more mainstream appeal, including their recent FIFA World Cup game, which I didn't even know they had a FIFA World Cup game, but that's part of the problem, is I don't think many people know what games Netflix has. They don't do a very good job advertising that. We'll get into that in a second. Netflix has continuously floundered in their gaming department, shuttering a AAA studio development studio with a large names associated with it, such as Dan Houser from Halo, a couple of names from Guerrilla Games, or the makers of Horizon Zero Dawn, along with some others. They've pivoted from interactive specials and removed them from the platform entirely. You may remember Bandersnatch, which was a Black Mirror interactive special where you kind of got to watch a show and also make choices at the same time. Bandersnatch, if you ever look up the diagram of choices with Bandersnatch, it's actually legitimately impressive, and I wish we had development studios that did stuff like that. Severe crazy butterfly effect stuff. It would take literal hours just to make all of the decisions in that game. It's kind of crazy. But they've completely removed all of those from the platform. You can't even find them anymore. Having limited visibility and knowledge of their video game offerings for most subscribers, and previously laying off a good percentage of Night School Studio staff in 2024. Yeah, Netflix, what can I say? This is no news here. We've talked about Netflix on the past in their various attempts at breaking into the video game industry, and while I think that they are starting to move in a more understandable direction now, it still just seems like they don't know what the frick to do with this. Video games are an undeniable boon to a Netflix subscription. Having essentially all gamers want to be a part of your Netflix subscription, that's an obvious win to add more revenue to potential Netflix platform, give more people the reason to come to your platform. That's the typical Netflix mode of operandi, right? So in this case, they were trying to develop games to put on their platform, but nobody knew they existed because there was no real advertising even on the platform for these particular things. It was only fairly recently that I saw these games being pushed more so on the phone side, and it was very recently that my wife even came to me and said, hey, I'm on the TV and I see Netflix is promoting these video games, like let's try one. And you can download a Netflix controller app and start playing video games like Overcooked. Like me and my wife played Overcooked on the TV using the Netflix app, which was very interesting, right? But like I think that's what Netflix clearly needs to move towards. Is like they don't own Overcooked, but they are a platform that a lot of people have that they can just license out games to, kind of like putting a movie they don't own on their platform, and they can just be a service, a platform for video games. Is that not the obvious thing to do with Netflix? I think that seems to be obvious because clearly they don't know what to do with the entire video game portion of their business. They continue to flounder. They continue to close studios, not understand the value in not advertising their games. They don't know what games to put on the platform. They don't know how to show them off, how people are supposed to play them. I mean, like this is continuously a thing that I wish Netflix would figure out. I wish that they'd be a lot more efficient with. I mean, like Game Pass is a great service. You can argue, yeah, the price may not be worth it or whatever, but like in general, hey, who doesn't love having a smorgasbord of games to just kind of try out as they may, as their whims desire? And Netflix is already out there. It proves to me that you can start moving in the direction of streaming on TVs, and I think Netflix is attempting to do that. The problem is I still see these spokespeople talking to GameFly, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we're going to continue to develop games internally, and we're going to focus on party games, story-driven games, games for kids, and mainstream appeal games." And it's like, okay, you clearly don't know how to do that. Like whatever's going on in the background of this whole video game pipeline, it's not working. And I think you would honestly just be more beneficial. It would be much more beneficial for Netflix to just partner with people, get licenses to games, put Overcooked on there, put Mario Party on there, put Grand Theft Auto on there. Mario Party is the only one that's obviously not on there right now, but like Overcooked and Grand Theft Auto are already on Netflix. You can already play those games through a Netflix subscription on your devices. So like why are we not just kind of doubling down on that? It just seems like you guys can't really figure out exactly how to navigate this whole space. Not only that, but you know, Netflix is in the process of purchasing Warner Brothers, which of course Warner Brothers has a very large video game arm to it. You know, everybody knows they made the recent Harry Potter games, they make the Mortal Kombat games, the Lord of the Rings games. Like they're kind of responsible for a large part of that. And those are some very big IP and some very big games. And Netflix is going to be the steward of that from now on. And if they continue to move in a platform direction, that could be certainly more beneficial to them. But currently, I don't know. I just don't know. I just don't know what the frick Netflix is thinking about doing. I wish I did. I wish I was there. I wish I could tell them, hey, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Because right now it's not working. But I think I'd probably be wrong. Otherwise, they'd be paying me to do it already. They would have heard of my wonderful plug and play video game podcast, and they would have already sent me a job offer. But that is just simply not how the world works. So, in this case, all the best to the Night School studio that was dissolved recently, and of course everybody at the other studio that was let go as well. It seems like it's not a great place to be if you're a developer, and I would continue to have my head on a swivel. Next, Kingdom Hearts 4. It's a little bit nicer, a little bit. Hey, we're talking about Disney now. The Disney segment. Everybody loves Disney, right? I mean, who doesn't love Disney? Just puts a smile on your heart, except for when they hate Jewish people or something like that. That would be a little less fun. But in this case, we're talking about video games. Hey, so D3 or not D3. We're going down a whole different path there. D23 is Disney's annual like E3 essentially. I don't know how we got 23. I'm sure there is some weird deep Disney lore that my wife can tell me about how D23 is the name. I don't know why we called it D23. I don't know. But maybe there is some reason. I'm sure it's like freaking Mickey Mouse has 23 points of, I don't know, something on his body, or there's always something freaking weird. And then Disney fanboys act like it's the coolest thing ever. That's why it's the way it. Anyway, Disney people kind of freak me out a little bit. But in this case, you should be even more freaked out by Kingdom Hearts people, because Kingdom Hearts 4 was shown off at D23, and we all know that Kingdom Hearts fanboys, as I am one of them, have a lot of baggage. We got a lot of baggage, we got a lot of problems, and this is nothing new. So not only did they show that, but they showed a Kingdom Hearts anime. In this case, the game was showed off the first playable world, which will be Coco. That's right, Disney's Loco and the Coco Pixar film, which is inspired by De los Muertos. Am I close? I don't speak Spanish. I am very white, so I don't know if I'm close there, but essentially the Day of the Dead, the Mexican holiday. And hey, it's a good movie, but is it a good game? Who knows? Because you can play as Donald and Goofy for the first time in series history. And they showed off some segments as playing as King Mickey in a like paper world where you're like kind of transforming into different paper areas, running along books, doing platforming. In all honesty, I'm going to be frank, that does not look like the highlight of this to me. And in all honesty, if I was somebody at Square Enix, I would say cut that bullcrap. Like, why are we doing this? It doesn't look like Kingdom Hearts. It doesn't look like a fun part of Kingdom Hearts. I already expect to play these segments and be like, oh man, I can't wait to not be playing these anymore. Like, these are not what I'm going to remember this game anymore for. So that's kind of my takeaway from those segments. And then Square Enix also tripled down on the game coming in late 2027. I'll believe it when I freaking see it. Square Enix has never been great about doing any kind of meeting schedules, but like the people there were like, oh no, like there is no way it's slipping. It's like impossible for it to slip. Like if it slips, I'll sacrifice my firstborn child. It's like, oh frick, okay. Like that's a pretty. They obviously didn't say the last part, but like they were very adamant. Late 2027 was when this game was coming, and I've never seen somebody be that adamant about a release schedule in my life. So in this case, I don't trust anything anybody says because who the heck knows? But game development is tricky, and especially when you're over a year out. Sorry, that's a lot of time for something to go wrong. But hey, that's cool that it's coming out then. It feels like this game has been in development for a really, really, really long time. So it's good to see that it actually has some kind of timestamp of like, yeah, you can almost kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel on this. And then one of the more interesting announcements here, obviously we knew that this was a thing that was around. We knew Kingdom Hearts 4 existed. We didn't know that Kingdom Hearts will be having its own anime coming to Disney Plus and Disney Channel in collaboration with Tetsuya Nomura. Oh, dang. Yeah, I know. That was a real buzzkill, wasn't it? Yeah, because Tetsuya Nomura, look, I mean, maybe you can make an argument that the guy is a great game director, that his games have been fun, gameplay is spiffy, flashy, looks great, plays fine, whatever. You cannot sit here and tell me that the Kingdom Hearts story, which is what you are going to be experiencing when you watch a show, is anything but a gosh darn train wreck. It is a nightmare. It's a long-running joke. It's literally like a long-running industry joke, and this is coming from somebody who loves Kingdom Hearts, that this series is incredibly obtuse, makes no sense. You have to watch lore videos before playing any game in this series, and it still won't make sense to even the most die-hard of any Kingdom Hearts lore fan. I honestly, I feel like, please, for the love of God, let the game direct the game. Let the guy direct the games do not let him touch the story anymore. Can we stop with that? Like Kingdom Hearts 3 was finally, we were like, okay, we're done with this arc. This arc in the series is done. We're moving on. And now we're still letting him come in and do like whatever he wants. Like, no, like let somebody else come in and say, hey, maybe the story needs to be tightened up a bit. It's literally people laugh at us. Like we go to the grocery store and we hear people laugh at us, Mr. Nomura. We have to do something about this. Nope, I think we are going to be seeing an incredibly crazy bonkers Kingdom Hearts anime, which is, hey, great. Hey, at least Disney seems to care about Kingdom Hearts all of a sudden. Kingdom Hearts has always been one of those things that Disney has always kind of been like, yeah, I mean, hey, cool, I guess people like that. You know, even though it's a fairly very well-known series and seems to be very well loved amongst general populace and most gamers in general. Obviously you combine, Final Fantasy with Disney, you're kind of set up for success in a lot of ways. They're two of the biggest franchises of all time, but in this case, they seem to really be acknowledging it. Like Mr. Iger, Bob Iger was like, yeah, I don't even freaking remember green lighting that thing. And then we've all heard the rumors of like, yeah, well, they pitched it to him in an elevator a long time ago, and that's why it exists at all. It's always kind of been this thing that Disney's like, yeah, is it like a Marvel movie? Okay, yeah, cool, nice couple mil there. We don't really care. Bottom line isn't really affected. But like Kingdom Hearts is technically owned by Disney. Like Sora is a Disney quote unquote character. It's not a Square Enix character. It is a Disney character. Disney owns that bullcrap, which is fairly comical in my opinion, because really, let's be real, Disney didn't do anything other than just lend Square Enix the IP. So it's just funny that Square Enix had to basically give everything to Disney on this one. But in this case, hey, great to see. Here's the clear takeaway for me is the Kingdom Hearts 4 footage that we saw here seems cool if you really like Disney. And that's awesome, right? Kingdom Hearts 3 had a lot of really cool Disney worlds. Hard to argue that. Was the gameplay good in Kingdom Hearts 3? I would argue it is some of the worst gameplay in the franchise's history, because it's really focusing on the spectacle, on pulling off these crazy like triangle like cinematic moves. It's not really about combat at any point anymore. It's really just about being very flashy and spamming these like 30-second moves over and over and over again. And it gets really boring really fast, and it shows off very, very well. It looks very splashy. But in this case, I'm looking at this and I say, I haven't seen anything that shows me that Kingdom Hearts has taken a step in the right direction in being like a more competent Kingdom Hearts 2 level combat system than Kingdom Hearts 3 was. Not only that, but these King Mickey segments, like I was saying, it looks like I'm not going to have fun playing them. Like, let's be real. It does not look fun. It looks like a weird platformer puzzle kind of thing, and I cannot say that has ever been something Square Enix is known for, yet alone Kingdom Hearts. So like I can't imagine that those segments are going to be the highlight of my playthrough with Kingdom Hearts 4. Am I looking forward to Kingdom Hearts 4? Sure. Absolutely. I'll be playing it day one. I'm unfortunately cucked by this series, but I have to say that this is not something that really blew me away, other than the fact that, hey, great, we're getting a Coco level, looks beautiful, but I have much to see in terms of, will this story be any good? Which, hey, let's be freaking real, it's not going to be. It's Kingdom Hearts. And, like, will the rest of this game's gameplay be worth it to me? I am still up in the air on that, and I'm interested to see. Next, this is the live service element section of the show. Who doesn't love a good live service element, right? So, per usual, live service games are still not doing very well. Unless you're Fortnite, you're not doing very well. So, in this case, we're going to talk about a couple of them. And most certainly we'll get into the more interesting one, which is the Horizon Hunters Gathering being overhauled. But we're going to start with another game that I think is a lot less interesting because it has a lot less overall implications to the gaming sphere, and more so just, hey, that's kind of crazy, isn't it? Which is Riot's, which you may know as the makers of League of Legends, one of the biggest games in the world, 2XKO Fighter, which is a League of Legends character fighter, is ending development in December due to an unsustainable low level of players. Woof, that's you don't love hearing that. So, refunds will be going out to all players on purchases before August 20th. All characters will be fully unlocked and online servers will remain on for the foreseeable future. I mean, if you just listen to me say any of that without tuning it out, you will hear me say very good things. You'll probably really like that. That's pretty much everything you could ever want. A full refund. Fantastic. I mean, people could have put hundreds of dollars into this at this point. Great. They'll get all their money back. Fully unlocked content. So the people who are around can now fully experience the game and get new content before the game goes off. And they'll be able to continue playing it. Which, like, in all honesty, that's kind of crazy because why would they continue to put money into servers for a game that people aren't going to, like, be able to have any further content for? Like, that's honestly very generous of them. Like, that's the most generous that they could possibly be. Possibly. And you may say, well, Henry, why doesn't everybody do that? It's like, okay, well, that's a great question. And the answer is Riot has built an entire business off of live service games. League of Legends obviously is the number one example of that. And if you were maybe playing League of Legends or maybe, I don't know, Auto Battler or whatever the frick else games they have, most of their games are incredibly successful. But if you're playing one of those games and you say, hey, they just shut down 2XKO and that entire player base just got effed. Like, they can't play the game anymore. They don't have access to any more characters. They lost all the money that they had invested into it over time. What do you start thinking about your game? Like, hey, do we have enough players to make this financially sustainable for Riot? Like, at what point do they start looking at our game and saying, hey, maybe we need to shut that down? And then I lose all the time that I put into it. I lose all the money. I can't play it anymore. What the frick? You, as Riot, want your customers across all of your ecosystem to feel very comfortable that if anything ever could even possibly happen to their game, that everything's going to be a-okay, because you're not going to take anything from them. They're not really going to lose anything from them. You may even get something out of it. We may even reward you for not having your friends play the game. Like, that's what Riot needs to instill in the rest of their user base, right? So the correct move, I think, but a move that comes from power, because the rest of their games are very successful, so they can kind of sustain this hit. That being said, 2XKO, I never saw really get off the ground, but I have heard it's fine. At the very least, I didn't think it was bad. I don't think anybody thought the game was bad. It just didn't pick up steam for whatever reason. And that is the folly of most of the live service industry, is like, what the frick is is sustainable? Like, what is stuff people want to play? Are people even going to leave their games like Fortnite or Apex or whatever the frick to come and play your game? And I don't think anybody's really figured that out yet. And speaking of figuring it out, here's the real juicy meat of the live service segment of the show, which is Horizon Hunters Gathering being overhauled, and live service elements will be removed after poor testing and feedback internally, which is kind of a big deal to me. So, story mode is being added, and a smaller scope for the game is now a more prominent focus. This is coming from Jason Schreier over at Bloomberg. So Bloomberg reports that while the game has not yet been canceled, staff were told this week that they have until December to show executives that the game should remain and active development. Quote unquote, many of the staff have been assigned to assigned to Horizon Hunters Gathering will also reportedly be moved to a different project, which is also set to be evaluated at the end of the year. So Horizon Hunters Gathering was shown off not too long ago as a 4-player co-op live service title. You could have played with bots throughout the game if you so chose, but it seems to be that this game just was not living up to what Sony assumed it could be. It was not fun. The people playing it within the company deemed it unfun. To continue, this is a kind of a big deal, I would say, is since Sony announced its intention to develop 10 live service games back in 2022, PlayStation Games as a Service mission has been marred by turbulent results. Its most high-profile misstep is the disastrous 2024 Concord, which was pulled from sale just 2 weeks after launch. Sony also canceled other live service games in development at numerous studios, including Bin Studio and Bluepoint, with their latter being closed entirely this year. Helldivers 2 has been an exception to this, proving extremely successful while Bungie's Marathon continues to remain active. In June, Sony Interactive Entertainment CEO Hideki Nishino indicated to Famitsu that Sony will continue to back the live service games despite the hurdles it has faced. That is from VGC. So, here's the thing. Something that I didn't realize is that Horizon Hunters Gathering was the A game. The A team for Guerrilla Games was working on Horizon Hunters Gathering, which I did not realize that. I thought that they were clearly, obviously, I mean, the common sense thing here, they're working on Horizon Zero Dawn or whatever the frick. It technically wouldn't have that subtitle, but Horizon 3, the third Horizon game. That just seemed like the obvious thing. That's the tentpole for that franchise. It is a game that is teased at the end, heavily, at the end of Horizon 2. So, obviously, Guerrilla Games is focusing on that, right? Duh. No, they're focusing on a live service game. Oh. Yeah, that seems like a really bad move, right? Like why would you do that to them? Like Horizon Hunters Gathering never even seemed like it was the it always seemed like a B team project. Like that just is crazy to me that they were putting so much on it. Apparently they also were like, yeah, dude, this is a problem and we need to really fix it. And they backed off of making it a live service game at all in an attempt to rectify the situation. Here's the thing. Horizon Hunters Gathering being shifted to a more single-player co-op experience without live service elements. Hey, great for us as consumers, right? Everybody hates these live service games, right? I think it shows Sony is willing to actually step back and say, hey, these live service games are not always the way. Now, that's a problem because Sony has spent the last entire generation focusing on these games that, I mean, like, we've shut down studios. We lost Bluepoint Games over this entire live service nonsense. Now, I think that's a little bit more gray. It kind of was both parties messing up there in that instance. But in general, we've lost a lot of games that could have been single player experiences. We've lost a lot of great games that could have been in exchange for a Concord, in exchange for a Horizon Hunters Gathering, in exchange for a 4 loop. Like these are the games that Sony is pushing as these big tentpole titles now because that's where they're putting all of their resources. But let's be real. Nobody freaking wants these games. They all look bad. We would all much rather have exactly what Sony is good at, which is these single-player massive experiences like a Wolverine, an Uncharted, a Last of Us, all that stuff. And we get maybe one of those a generation now. And that's because of Sony's push to try and gamble on the live service elements, which has not panned out. I understand why Sony felt the need to do this. They felt like this is way too big of an offer to pass up. If we could have a Fortnite, that sounds like an amazing deal. Totally get it. But now we're looking back in hindsight, we're seeing how Sony approached all of this. It's obvious that they messed up. And we now see them saying, okay, well, maybe we'll start turning some of these live service games into single player games because that's what we're good at. That's what we're good at. That's our only way to even make money off of these things. And it's like, okay, that's really frustrating. That's really frustrating to hear because I wish I could have gotten those games from the beginning from you. But instead, I've really just kind of watched every other platform make games over the past generation, and Sony has not. And it's very frustrating, right? So I'm looking at this and I say, great, Sony is willing to take a step back. They're obviously going to keep still making these freaking games, these live service games. As a guy who personally prefers single player experiences, hey, I get it. But at the same time, what the frick? Please stop making these freaking games. But I think this is the first instance of Sony saying, hey, maybe live service isn't always the best approach. Maybe we don't have to double, triple, quadruple down on these games as a service titles because it's maybe not always the right path. And that is, at least, thank God, the first time I can possibly hear them say that. And I hope that that is something that continues as maybe we start drifting slowly back towards, hey, maybe these live service gambles aren't the way to go anymore. Let's see. We don't know. But it's interesting to see Sony putting so much in on this, and we're finally starting to see, like, hey, maybe Sony can actually back down on this and not, like, be just like, yeah, put it out. It's Concord, whatever. So finally, in the news, before we take I'm going to time travel for you and go way off into the future. We have one last news story for you, and that's the GTA leaks. That's right. There has been a hacker by the name of CyberLeak out there, and he's been posting GTA 6 clips and the map, the entire map of the game, a week ahead of the Netflix reveal, and it is all in protest. He's like Robin Hood, right? It's all in protest because they're not releasing a disc version of the game. Darn you, Rockstar. Taking away my physical games. That's all I really care about. All I really care about. We'll get into that in a second. So, in retaliation, Rockstar has filed a number of subpoenas in federal district court, petitioning Microsoft in Discord for the release of records related to online accounts, posting, and sharing leaks of the game. CyberLeak has been drip feeding the leaks and promoting their cryptocurrency, all in the meanwhile, in an attempt to keep a coin relevant and high. This guy is going to get found. From what I understand, it is not looking good for this guy, and he's pretty brazen. So I have not seen any of these clips. Honestly, just I can wait. I can wait until Netflix shows off everything in a more not 480p style on Twitter. I don't mind it. It's fine. These leaks are apparently very widely being circulated. Of course it is, because it's GTA 6 and everybody wants to see it. I mean, just the fact I'm saying it means it's like 8 times more likely somebody's going to click on this clip. I mean, it just is what it is. GTA is just that thing right now. But in this case, he seems to be very brazen about it. He's putting up polls, literal polls of, hey, what do you want to see next? Like, I'll show you a clip of, them flying a plane or crashing a car or shooting a cop or whatever the case, and people can vote on it and pay in these polls so that they can see what the next thing is that he can leak for GTA 6, which is freaking crazy. All the while promoting his own cryptocurrency. He even at one point shot his name into the wall a wall to show, like, yeah, dude, I have the freaking game. So initially, I think Rockstar was like, oh frick, somebody in the company sent out a freaking whatever, a clip to him, and now he has access to it and he's posting it. Oh no. Then it became, oh no, he has an actual freaking copy of the game. Like, he has the whole thing, and he can leak literally freaking everything about it. Now, if we rewind the clock, Rockstar has had a couple of leaks for GTA 6. They had a developer's build get leaked a long time ago, I think around 2 years ago, actually. They had the initial trailer for the game get leaked a few weeks early. So it's not uncommon for this to happen. That being said, according to Jason Schreier at Bloomberg, this put them on lockdown. They were like, we cannot have anything else get out about this game. F any more leaks. I do not want to see a single thing drop about this game on the internet. And that's what they did. They locked everything down, had severe security protocols for anything. And 1 week before they drop this massive reveal for GTA 6, it has been quiet as a mouse, by the way. Nobody said a thing about this game. No leaks, no nothing. This dude comes out and is like, oh, I have the whole game. Ha 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 ha. And I'll post the whole thing. I don't care. I think they're furious. I mean, reports have all said internal everything right now at Rockstar is livid. They are not happy. This guy is stealing the thunder of their reveal. Here's what I have to say to that. I don't care. It's not that I don't care about Rockstar, all right? I don't care about watching these leaks. Like, I'll just watch it when it's on Netflix. I'll watch it when they post it to YouTube. I don't even have to pay for the Netflix subscription. I'll wait an extra 6 hours for you. I'll be generous. I'll wait an extra 6 hours. I'll watch it on YouTube. I won't care. It's great. Great that people can see a little bit of this game prior. I'm sorry that it is taking the wind out of anything. Honestly, I'm sorry people are paying this man to leak bits of it when they can wait a week to just see it. Like that, it seems silly to me. All right. So in this case, okay, did a little bit of searching and found a post on Vice Sit forums. A man has gone in depth on this guy's cryptocurrency, right? This is obviously from a freaking forum post. I am used to citing people from journalistic postages. Bloomberg, VGC, those are my big sources typically. And in this case, I'm pulling from a freaking forum, all right? So in this case, I'm going to quote this user on Vice Sit forums. He did a deep dive onto this guy and his Bitcoin and everything. I'll read you what he has to say. I'll summarize it after. The setup cost for this crypto was $29K, which I didn't know you had to pay that much money to set it up. But the funds are locked away in liquidity pool, so there's not a chance for a typical rug pull scheme. He then edits and says, there is still a risk because he holds 270 million coins that have been transferred to a private wallet. Instead, they earn money on transaction fees. Now, this is actually quite fascinating. And I respect the frickin' business acumen here. The coin did the coin did 15 million in volume on the first day, which holy frick, so much money going in and out of a cryptocurrency in one day is like insanity to me, which comes out to roughly $30,000 in fees. Total fees so far are estimated to be around 40 to 60K. At the current pace, they're clearing about $4,400 a day in fee for as long as it keeps trading. On top of that, he still has the 270 million tokens, which is about 27% of the total supply that never went into the pool. They're just sitting in a separate wallet worth about $391,000 right now, probably to be sold off slowly so it doesn't crash the price. So, we have Mr. CyberLeak leaking all these juicy GTA clips promoting his cryptocurrency when it's estimated the dude is making about $4,000, $5,000 a day on simple transaction fees for the currency. He's holding roughly around $400,000 in the coin right now. He will likely sell it off slowly. He's drip feeding these leaks so that people will not only pay him to vote in these polls, they will pay him for the transaction fees associated with buying and selling the coin. But then he will slowly dump the coin to get his 400K, hopefully more for him at least, if the coin keeps going up. This is and then and by the way, when he runs out of stuff to leak, or when the game comes out, or when, like the gameplay footage has been released, whatever the case is, he's going to dump the coin. And it's going to crater the value, and it's going to be a rug pull. But right now, he's very well off in terms of the money that he's making, and has made a lot of money just on posting GTA clips, and will continue to make more, and is set to make hundreds of thousands of dollars more by the end of this whole thing. So this is not some Robin Hood thing. He's posing it as, oh, well, it's because of the physical games. Rockstar isn't releasing a physical game. Chill out, bro. You're not some freaking Robin Hood, dude. Wait until this coin gets pulled, and then come back to me and tell me this guy's a Robin Hood. Because he's going to steal hundreds of thousands of dollars from people. Or whatever. Steal may be a harsh term. But freaking dupe people out of hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's freaking not cool. And it's off the backs of leaking the game, which in general, I'm not like super for leak culture. I'd much rather there be a cultural moment within the video game industry where we all have like a wow moment together seeing a big reveal. So I'm not for leak culture, but like if this was just a dude saying like, yeah, here's the game, I'm leaking it, I'd be a little bit more like okay with it. Than if he's like, yeah, I'm actually also doing a crypto scheme on the side, and all these leaks are heavily tied in with me trying to bamboozle people with a cryptocurrency. Come on. Come on. That's not cool. Let's be real. So, like, I don't know. People are kind of all over the place talking like this guy's a saint, and one, I've already gone into in multiple episodes, the whole physical games thing is redonkulous. You people are speaking out of two sides of your mouth. You're not buying physical games with your actions, and then you're saying that you want physical games to still be around. Like, you can't have it both ways. You have to support a physical economy if you want a physical economy to exist, and I don't think people do that. And in this case, I think he knows that the physical game controversy is a clickable thing. It's a viral thing, and it'll get people to come and help him out and give him money. And he doesn't give a frick about that. I don't think anybody truly does. And here we are. Like it's all scummy. I think from all elements from this cyber leak guy. I think he's gonna get found out. I don't think he's savvy enough to probably cover his tracks, and he's picking on one of the biggest video game companies in the industry. So they have deep pockets. They are literally the people who make Grand Theft Auto. Maybe you've heard of it. They have a lot of money, and that lot of money can go into hiring people to find who the frick you are, including subpoenaing Microsoft and Discord to find out who you are. Like, this guy is going to get caught. He's going to get got. And he's going to freaking go to jail. Like, it sucks. I don't know how long you do for leaking GTA 6. Like, Take-Two is trying to copyright strike the frick out of this stuff. Which, like, hey, more power to them. But, like, it's kind of crazy that this guy is so brazen. So bold. I think you can't get much more in your face about this. Like I don't know. It's a crazy thing, and hey, it's GTA, so of course people are going to talk about it. But it's also just crazy in general. Just all the elements of it. I don't hear as many people talking about the cryptocurrencies. I hear people talking about the leaks, and to me, the cryptocurrency scheme is easily like the most freaking bonkers part of this whole thing. Like that's just weird. That's just kind of not nice, right? I mean, that's what I think. Anyway, that's it for the news. Only an hour in, so not too bad. But here's the thing. We still have 2 segments of the show left. So right now, I'm recording on a Monday. We're going to fast forward a little bit, and I'll do some time travel-y, loop-de-loop science stuff. You don't need to worry about it. I'll just take my hand. I'll lead you through it, son. But we're going to go into the future after the Gamescom Opening Night Live showcase. I'm going to join you after probably what is like a 3-hour presentation that probably should have been an hour and a half, has a lot of commercials, and probably bored me for at least an hour and a half of its entire runtime. But there will be at least one thing worth talking about, and we will go through every single one of the things that maybe even aren't worth talking about, but we'll talk about them. And hey, we'll go through it together. How does that sound? Sounds pretty good, right? All right. Well then, 3, 2, 1. Hello, it's me, Henry from Futures Past, or something around those lines. I don't know what tense I'm really supposed to be talking in about this right now, but I am post Gamescom 2026, and it was quite possibly the most Chinese thing I've ever seen. The entire continent of Asia really just kind of came out in force for this one. The amount of Korean, Japanese, and mostly Chinese games we've seen at this showcase is almost unbearable, if I had to personally say. It was honestly most of this was just kind of updates on games that we've already heard about, or announcements for games that have names that I can't really pronounce very well because they're all written in Chinese. But like, it is what it is. That's the way the games industry is moving now, is the Chinese industry is coming in with their gacha games, and they got a lot of money pumped into those things, man. I don't know where they're getting it all. But in this case, we're going to be going through every single one of the games as told by Eurogamer. I'm using their list and their info for this. This is literally, I'm recording immediately post Gamescom, so I have not had any time to do research on these games. I am going off of my impressions, and my impressions for most of them are that's about it. That was a genuine response to most of the games. My eyes glazed over half the time, but we'll get through it. Some of these things are interesting. Some of these things are, like this first interesting one, which is the opener for Gamescom 2026, which is Notice Fall. Nodus, Notice Fall. The only thing that makes this really worth talking about is it's from HoYoverse, who you may recognize as the developers behind Honkai Star Rail or Genshin Impact or any of the other massive free-to-play gacha anime titles that you may be familiar with. They are a powerhouse in China. They do very, very well, and they've really taken over a lot of the free-to-play market. So they're kind of a force to be reckoned with in a way. So they show off their new game, which is kind of an Elden Ring meets Hunter or Monster Hunter kind of situation, which is certainly interesting. Hey, you can't expect anything less than a big budget, jaw-dropping set piece moment from any kind of HoYoverse showing, which, hey, fantastic, right? It's not for me, because I already know, one, this is going to be a free-to-play game that is going to want me to spend hundreds, if not thousands, of my own dollars in order to really have a good time, because it's a free-to-play gacha game. That's just kind of a given with HoYoverse. And then I also see this as being incredibly punishing to people who don't spend the money, because Monster Hunter in and of itself is already kind of built upon a grind, which I'm not a fan of. It's why I'm not a huge fan of Monster Hunter in the first place, is because the franchise is just kind of incentivizes the player to grind a lot, and I just would prefer not to do that. Elden Ring, hey, I love the story, the vibe of Elden Ring, so that looks interesting here, and that seems to be a Chinese Elden Ring vibe. But in general, it's not for me. So this was certainly a very good premonition of what the entire rest of the show was going to be. And if I had known 90% of these showings were going to be basically a bunch of Chinese gotcha, I would have been like, oh, well, it's not even worth watching or delaying the podcast a day, but I didn't know that. And I was only at the first reveal. So next was Rainbow Six Tactics gameplay was shown off. It's Ubisoft. It's a Rainbow Six game, but it's tactics. I don't know. I mean, there is crossover here for this audience, right? People with Rainbow Six interests may also have like a wartime, I want a tactical general, I'm going to be the colonel of this army or whatever the frick. I'm no military man, but I can tell you that it is not my cup of tea. I'm already not a huge tactics gamer in the first place. At least I don't seek them out. And then I don't significantly trust Ubisoft with most anything nowadays. You really have to give me almost every reason to believe that Ubisoft will not make a mess of things in order for me to believe it. But like, I thought that about Black Flag. Assassin's Creed Black Flag came out earlier this year, and I was like, oh, it's just a remake of a game that was already great. Like, what's the problem here? Well, it's reviewed under the original game significantly because they put in a bunch of garbage microtransactions to try and milk the player for freaking money for no reason other than just to milk the player for money. So we are here with Ubisoft yet again with the exact same problem of, well, I don't know if I can trust these mother effers. Even with a single player tactics game, I just have to imagine they will shoehorn in something that is not going to be very nice for the player. Next, Gears of War E-Day gets another trailer. This is going to be a recurring theme throughout this presentation. A lot of games that we've seen before, we see just a little bit more of, which is fine. It's nice to see a little bit more of things, but these are not things that you require for one of these big conferences or presentations. I think we've gotten to a stage where if you want to show off the Gears of War E-Day release trailer with story-focused content or cinematics or whatever, you just kind of drop that on your socials and your YouTube channel and call it a day. You don't have to be like, well, we're going to make it a big deal and we're going to get hundreds of thousands of people to watch it live on a stage show. Like, I don't think we're doing that anymore. Like, we don't have to. And a lot of these feel like a bunch of nothing burgers because it's just more of just, hey, yeah, you know that game that's coming out in like a month? Yeah, here's a cinematic from it. It's like, all right, I guess that's very kind of you, very generous of you, Microsoft gods, to give us this wonderful trailer to look at. Which, that's all what this stuff is, right? But in general, this felt very underwhelming. But that's what most of these are going to be. So, continuing on, Anadha gets a release date reveal trailer, which is January 15th, 2027. If you aren't familiar with Anada, it's been shown off before. It is basically a like anime GTA, which, hey, is already interesting, right? It seemed weirdly kitschy. Like, I like at the opening of the trailer is the protagonist about to be dropped out of a helicopter, and they're like, you're about to die. What are your last words or something like that? And he's like, well, I still have a mortgage on my house, and there's a lot of memes that I want to still send to people. I'm like, oh. I mean, I know we're trying to be funny, and maybe that's relevant to this society nowadays, but I also feel like that's just trying a little maybe too hard. Like the mortgage, I was like, okay, maybe. Sending people memes on my phone, like I don't want to die because there's a lot of memes I want to send people. I don't know, that just seems a little too online for me, and that's coming from a guy with a video game podcast. Like it's a little too online for me. But maybe I'm also just so online that I don't need to send people memes. They're just a part of my DNA at this point. So maybe that's a normie thing. I don't know, but in general, the game looks good. You know what I think though overall? By the way, this is from NetEase, which is another big Chinese developer, which makes a bunch of free-to-play games. It's a free-to-play game. Hey, anybody got any bad vibes about a free-to-play game, especially an open-world free-to-play game? It's like, Henry, what could possibly be wrong about an open-world free-to-play game? They're gonna like basically be like, hey, do you want to explore? Well, you're not a high enough level yet. You need to pay $20 to try and level up faster, or you can grind for 15 hours and then you'll be able to get access to this content. Why don't you go do the same 5 missions over and over and over again once a day before we can actually let you progress? Like, I am very anti free to play, like predatory, like, hey, if you don't pay money, you're really not going to be having a fun time with this game kind of deal. Development styles, and I feel like this reeks of it. I just can't imagine an open world game, quote unquote, that's free to play. That I don't understand how that structure would work, because free to play games, the whole point is freedom, and you're not going to be very free if you're having to be blocked off from progression every 5 minutes to try and encourage you to spend money. So that's a nata. It still looks interesting. Sure, I may give it even a try depending on how it ultimately turns out, but right now, I'm skeptical. Next was Silent Hill Townfall. Have you heard of Silent Hill Townfall? Well, let me tell you, there's another trailer for Silent Hill Townfall. It shows you a little bit more than we saw last time, but not enough to change your mind on anything. That is what we're going to continue to say for the vast majority of these update trailers that we got throughout the show. So, yep, Silent Hill Townfall, nothing has changed. That's cool. Resonance: A Plague's Tale Legacy literally comes out in a day. Thank you for the trailer. That's really just product placement at its best. I mean, it's really just trying to get people to look at this game, which, hey, great, but come on. We need to waste space on this for basically just an ad. This is not revealing anything or telling us anything we wouldn't know within the next 2 days of the game being released, so that's cool. Sea of Remnants continues to show off. This is the RPG pirate game that is also from NetEase, I believe. Sea of Remnants looks very wonderful in terms of its art style. Don't know much about it beyond that, really, but it continues to have trailers at all of these presentations. Clearly, they give Jeff Keighley a lot of money. Next, Crimson Desert, a new content trailer. Wow. We've come a long way in 6 months, haven't we? From Crimson Desert being this universally mixed, either people loved it or hated it, one of the two. And in all honesty, I looked at it and I said, I saw all the complaints people had about it, and I said, hey, they're going to patch the frick out of this game. This is from some big Chinese developer that's going to pour so much money into this game. This is easily going to be patched to high heaven. This is going to be some No Man's Sky level turnaround. And here we are, 6 months later, they're already like, hey, we're fixing everything, okay? We're putting in new story, expanded voiceover and language support, new post-launch updates. All of them are going to be on this disc. Don't worry. It's going to be great. Come on. This game is still probably due for 1,000 more updates in the future. I really do feel for anybody who played this game at launch, because this was always going to be one of those games that just got better as it went on, and you really shouldn't have gotten in. This is another one of the examples, the many examples of just don't buy games day one. If you're not planning on getting to it anytime soon, just do not buy it on day one, because you are almost assuredly going to be given a better experience the longer you wait on these games. And Crimson Desert is an absolute example of that. I still don't know if the game is any better at its core than it was when it released initially. If you didn't like it then, I don't know if you're going to like it now, but hey, at least it's better than it was. If you thought it was a garbage game, maybe it's slightly less so now. Next, Tides of Annihilation. We didn't learn really anything about this game. We technically learned who the voice behind the protagonist of the game is. It's the same chick as Grace Ashcroft, Angela Sant Albano. It took me a second to read that. But in this case, it's more Tides of Annihilation. If you are familiar with it, it is a hack and slash, almost kind of looks Souls-ish. Looks very good, let's be real, but it just simply didn't tell us anything new. It's just another trailer. Next was Love Song, which is an Italian, almost like Limbo-like. So a puzzler where you're playing as a cute little thing in a mysterious world. And I don't know, we really didn't learn anything about it. So it just, if you like the art style of it, congratulations. But this is not from any big developer. That they even got like the director of the game to come out and be like, "Hey, I'm the director of the game," and like they don't do that for the vast majority of developers that show games off at these presentations. So clearly they think something's going on here. But I looked at the developer and I was like, "Oh, they haven't done anything. Like they're just a small Italian developer, which is fine, but it's like, okay, why are we like putting so much emphasis on these guys? This really doesn't look like anything revolutionary." Next, Mega Man Dual Override got another trailer. They showed off one of the bosses, like Starlight Girl or something like that. It is some chick who fights Mega Man with sparkles or something. Anyways, Mega Man has never really caught my eye for whatever reason. I've just never fully been engrossed in any of the games that I've played. I've played briefly a couple of the classic Mega Men, but never finished any of them. And like I understand the appeal. I like the traditional Mega Man of, hey, go through this area, beat a boss, and then you get their power, and their power can make you more powerful against other bosses. I think that that's a cool I think that's a cool way of doing a setup for any game, really. And it's just weird that Mega Man has not seen very much love from Capcom until now for many, many years. And this is a series that I think a lot of people hold very dearly. The last Mega Man I don't think did incredibly well, so I don't know how well this one will do, but hey, it's Mega Man. So people are going to be talking about it, people are going to be looking forward to it. Congratulations if so. They also revealed a Pragmata skin for Mega Man as well, or a Pragmata will be getting a Mega Man skin. There you go. So, another reason for me to look at Pragmata. I will likely be picking the game up on Black Friday or something. There will probably be some deep sale on it, and I will be playing it, hopefully. So I'm looking forward to that. Next, Rayman Legends Retold. Rayman Legends Retold was shown and showed off their next musical level. The musical levels obviously being the biggest highlight from the original Rayman Legends. They are by far the funnest part of those games, and it's already a very, very good 2D side-scrolling platformer. I think it's easily one of the best in the genre in terms of 2D side-scrolling platformers. I genuinely believe that. And admittedly, like what is the competition? Like Mario? Like if you're obviously never going to compete with that, but like beyond that, like what is truly your competition? But in this case, I think Rayman Legends is certainly one of the best out there, and they also showed off their Macarena musical level, which hey, looks great. Honestly, I was hoping to see those on my own because I'll definitely be picking this game up. Like I said, if you haven't played this game before, you really need to. There's no reason why you shouldn't be picking this version up. It will probably be the better version and probably give you even more content. Well, it will definitively give you even more content. They've already announced that. But hey, October 1st, looking good. So keep your eye on it. Next, PUBG Dead.net. Edgy hacker, yeah. So from the PUBG Craft-On developer / publisher, we have like a shooter, a team-based shooter. The only thing that really separates this game from like any other multiplayer shooter out there is it looked very edgy. It looked very gritty. It kind of in a comical way. There were like people playing as like voodoo dolls or some bull crap, and people like slamming people's heads into frying pans as an execution. So that certainly looked interesting, but overall, I'm not gonna play this. Like, I don't care about the PUBG universe, and I don't care about multiplayer shooters. So sounds like a good time for those who do. Next, Once Human. I'm going to skip that, actually. It's a PvPvE game that I don't remember seeing when I was watching it, so can't be anything too crazy. Next, Control Resonant is still coming out September 24th, and it still looks pretty good. Cool beans. Next, Blood of the Dawnwalker. That comes out in a week. we got another trailer for that. Continue moving on. Next, Game of Thrones War of the Westeros is shown off a little bit more. This is not the first time it's been shown. It's been shown before. Early 2027 is what they're saying here. It's a Game of Thrones RTS game. So do you like Age of Empires? Do you like being a god looking down on high and commanding units? Well, then you're going to love this game, and you're going to play it because it's Game of Thrones, right? I don't know. Maybe that'll be a big deal. I don't know. It just is. It just seems like it is, really. It feels like if you already know you like this game, you like this game, and if you don't, you don't. Like, I feel like that's kind of how I look at this. Next, Dust Origins announced. It's an airship game. I don't know, or it's not an airship game. That's the developer, excuse me. I don't remember Dust Origins. This is we're getting into the middle of the show where my eyes started glazing over. So I don't even remember what this is. We're gonna continue on. Exodus gets another trailer showing off one of the companions. This also got a release date of April 7th, 2027. So Exodus, we've talked about on the show before. It was a big showing over at Summer Games Fest, and it is basically a new Mass Effect game. And it has looked pretty mid for the most part. I vividly remember the last impressions I gave of Exodus being, hey, this game looks okay, I guess. I mean, I'm not gonna pay $70 for it or anything, but hey, maybe when it's like a free to play game, or when it's packaged in with PlayStation Plus or Game Pass or something, I'll give it a shot. And here we have Salty, who actually made me a lot more interested in this game because I was like, oh, that's a pretty interesting companion, and the trailer in general looked a lot better than their previous showings, in my opinion, which is an octopus. And I mean that like in a literal sense, not like an alien octopus thing, like a literal human earth, like not human, but a literal earth octopus, and the octopus pilots a mech. The companion's name is Salty, and they seem to be kind of freaking ruthless, and I think that that's so interesting and bizarre and crazy, and hey, I gotta love it, man. You gotta love it. And I'm looking forward to it at this point. Like, hey, if I get to meet an octopus and hang out with them, I am interested to give this game a little bit more attention moving forward. We'll see. But probably the best this game has done to pique my interest. Speaking of piquing interest, Warlock Dungeons and Dragons finally showed off some gameplay for us, and my god, actually looks pretty interesting. Now, the gameplay looked very different in terms of it doesn't seem like Warlock is focusing specifically on being like a combat focused game in terms of the normal, like, you need to hit something with a sword, dodge, parry, all that good stuff. It really does seem like you're going to have a large amount of tools at your disposal, with the game, showing off some transportation magic, some lightning magic. At one point, the character summons a rainstorm so that lightning magic can be more effective. Your good old-fashioned dash, teleportation, all that good stuff. I felt like I saw a large number of spells and options that the player could utilize to get the upper hand on enemies that typically you would not see in most action games, and more so that it feels like you're not relying on a sword. You are relying on your magic skills and using them in creative and interesting ways to try and outdo your opponents, which is very interesting. And I love that. It didn't necessarily show us more so. If you could have seen like maybe the HUD or something, we may have been able to see exactly how many options the player could handle at once, how they were switching between options, how easily that will be in the main game. But in general, I genuinely was impressed with this showing of Warlock Dungeons and Dragons. I will certainly be keeping an eye on it and certainly be wanting to see more as it arrives in 2027. Next, 1001 Threads of Mazan, which is a 1001 Arabian Nights inspired game from, I don't know, some new studio that seems to be probably based in that area, if I had to guess. It's a cinematic trailer, so really all we're going off of is, hey, isn't this a different setting than what you're used to seeing? And I'm like, yes, that is very interesting, but also I also need to know exactly what the game is. So that's cool if we eventually get to that point. But hey, I love to see that. Love to see diversity in these settings and cultures and all that other good stuff. Because you never know when you're going to get something different. It's not all just Call of Duty, you know. That's very good to see. But again, we still need to see more before I'm anything beyond excited for it. Next was Silver Palace, which was an anime like RPG horror almost kind of game. It was hard to really place what Silver Palace was, but it is from a developer called Silver Studio. I looked them up. They've never done anything before, so this developer was essentially made to create Silver Palace. I am sure that it is a freaking Chinese game. It's going to be free to play or something like that. We really don't know anything about it at this point, other than the fact it is an anime game that kind of looks a little bit different than other anime games. So we'll see. Definitely interesting vibes here, but overall, I have to see a lot more than what I know about it currently, and I don't trust what it will ultimately become. Next, Monster Hunter Outlanders is a mobile Monster Hunter game. All right, we're continuing on. Next, Metro 2039. This game recently got delayed into 2027, February of 2027. It was originally a fall or winter even 2026 game, but it looks really good. Hey, have you liked Metro games in the past? This is also a Metro game, and it also looks pretty good. Considering I just love the concept of Metro. You know, there's a nuclear fallout, and everybody's living in these tunnels and having to kind of survive underground. I feel like it very much does a very good job portraying that kind of a lifestyle and that kind of it's just an interesting overall vibe. The economy that it tries to portray within the game and how people have to live and survive and thrive in those conditions. It's very interesting. It's very interesting. And it still looks pretty freaking fun. You get to blow the crap out of stuff with a shotgun and have to manage your resources, and it just looks like a good old plain fun time. The developers did try to focus on, like, hey, we are from the Ukraine, and you know that's like a place where there's a war, and it's like, yeah, like I very much respect that the developers have to develop this game under those conditions, and I hope to God it's a great game. Metro typically lands on its feet pretty well, and I hope that these developers do well, obviously because of the conditions they've had to undergo while development, but also because I think the Metro series is overall a pretty good franchise and has had some really interesting titles, and I'd love to see it continue. So that looks pretty good for Metro 2039. Next, have you ever wanted to kill Snoop Dogg? Well, he's your next elusive target in Hitman World of Assassination from August 27th to September 26th. So you have 1 month. I still do not understand how that business model works. You probably pay Snoop Dogg a significant amount of money, and you probably have to pay your developers a significant amount of money to make an entirely new setting for you to make this one-time mission that is only available for 1 month to your players. To obviously to sell copies of the game, great, but at this point, you know, like how many people who don't want Hitman have like decided, yeah, Snoop Dogg's the thing I needed to get into Hitman and buy it for that one mission and get out? I don't even know. Like, what is the real business model behind these elusive targets, and why not just make it a permanent mission? That just seems like such a better deal for everyone, right? I get it. I get it's the FOMO aspect of like, well, I have to buy the game now. I'm just gonna do it, and you do it. But like, also, doesn't it just make more financial sense to just not wait and or not pull the content? Like, I don't know. You have it there forever, so people could always have an incentive to buy it. I don't know. It's never made sense to me, but they continue to do it, so it must be working. But you can kill Snoop Dogg. Pretty interesting stuff. Next, Aeon 2. I don't know what the frick Aeon is. Aeon 1 is. Next. Afterworld trailer. This is another from Paradox. It looks somewhat post-apocalyptic. I don't remember seeing it. Next. Petite Planet. Petite Planet is the next game from HoYoverse. You can get early access in winter 2026. And it's basically, hey, Animal Crossing, but HoYoverse, which is different than what HoYoverse normally does. They don't normally do these cutesy-wootsy family-friendly things, but at the same time, this just seems like an obvious win. I think that these farming sim games are mass appeal. People seem to love them. I feel like 90% of Nintendo Directs are all cozy farming sim games. So clearly the genre has enough room to be dominated by some massive player outside of Animal Crossing. So in this case, HoYoverse is dipping their toes in it, and I think it's honestly a pretty wise move to do that. Will I give a frick? Absolutely not. And does a free-to-play farm sim sound anything remotely appealing to me? Heck no. Oh my gosh. I can't even imagine the struggles I would have being like, well, I guess I'll wait 24 hours to water my crops. Like, that just sounds so wholly unappealing to me. I have no interest in checking this game out in any capacity. Next, Mugenics is coming to consoles on September 8th. This was a no-brainer for me. Mugenics came out early this year and was one of the highest reviewed games of the year, so it only seemed obvious that this game was going to eventually come to consoles. In fact, the developer has even said as much. The fact that it's coming so soon, great. I don't know if I'll be getting to it anytime soon, but I was I was definitely waiting for it to come to consoles. It's just easier for me to play there. It's kind of my preferred play choice, or play destination. So I will be probably playing it there. So hopefully we'll get a nice discount or something at some point soon, and I'll hopefully give it a shot. Next, Aliens Fireteam Elite 2 gets a launch trailer coming on September 29th to the Nintendo Switch 2. Yeah, we all love Fireteam, right? Well, you're getting another one of those, so that's nice to see. Next, we have Showa American Story, which I actually got a kick out of. So Showa American Story is a very Asian game where you play as a woman in low-cut booty shorts, which, hey, who's going to argue with that? But it looks wacky, looks crazy. At one point, the chick starts beating up people with like an American flag and then salutes it, and the flag like launches like a rocket into space and blows up into fireworks. Like, it looks like it's kind of balls to the walls insane. I love a good balls to the walls insane game that makes me go like, what the frick am I even playing? This is insane. That's my favorite type of Asia. I love it when Asia does that kind of stuff. So I actually do have my eyes on Showa American Story. Don't know much about it at the moment, but the gameplay I saw looks pretty good. So I'm willing to keep an eye on it in some way, shape, or form. Next, Road Kings from Saber Interactive. Do you like driving a truck? By God, there's a lot of people out there who do. The American Truck Simulator is one of the best-selling games on Steam ever. And Road Kings is essentially trying to come for the crown. It is coming out in March 11th, 2027. Drive a truck across America to your heart's content. Next. This one actually kept me, put me on the edge of my seat. Not really. But it made me go like, huh. What the frick is going on here? Next was Stage Tour. Stage Tour is from the original Guitar Hero developers. So Red Octane, if you aren't familiar, was the original developers of Guitar Hero. Guitar Hero was known to have overproduced their games into oblivion to a point where the series died. That was after they were purchased by Activision, and the studio was closed shortly after. However, as of about a year ago, Red Octane came back and was essentially wholly owned by Embracer Group, who we've always had great things to say about Embracer Group. They've never done anything wrong. And in this case, they are making a new Guitar Hero game. Now, what makes this so interesting is two things. One, the amount of licensed music here is kind of crazy. Like, the whole problem with most rhythm games is getting the music. Having a library of music that you don't have to pay licenses for and maintain licenses for and get people involved and make people want to buy it for, that's difficult. That's not an easy thing to do. And in this case, they have 90 tracks from a wide range of artists, some of which include Radiohead, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Olivia Rodrigo, Bring Me the Horizon, Muse, Weezer, and more. They shoved a whole list of artists out there that I could not keep up with, and they were like, this isn't even all of them. So very, very interesting there. The second thing is they will be having physical peripherals associated with this game. You got your typical Guitar Hero guitar, you got your typical drum set, and while I know everybody's like, oh, my nostalgia, that was my childhood, I love Guitar Hero, I wish that they would make another Guitar Hero. One, the market would disagree with you. At some point, you stopped buying every Guitar Hero game that came out. Two, as somebody who does not have every lick of space in the world, I do not have the room nor the desire to have a plastic drum set sitting in the corner of my room for the end of eternity just to play this one game. Like I simply don't enjoy that idea. And this is coming from a guy who genuinely enjoys rhythm games, certainly every once in a while, especially if the music is good enough to my personal taste. But in this case, it all looks very good. But I don't know if we've just gotten past the peripheral area. Like, are we done with those? People, I heard people at Gamescom cheering when they showed off. Yeah, they're bringing back physical peripherals. I don't know if you are saying that just to say that because like that's what you want, that's what you had as a kid, or if you actually think that's a good idea. Because I don't know how many people are going to shell out. Like that's going to be more money. Like you do know that. Like it's not going to be a normal $70 game or whatever. Like you're going to have to buy probably like a freaking $50, $60, $70 drum kit or bass or whatever the frick peripheral to play this game. Like it's going to be an expensive game because you have to buy these peripherals specifically for it. So I think people are easily swayed to saying, oh yeah, I'm familiar with that and therefore that's really cool. But I don't know how this will execute in practice. Rooting for it, looks interesting. I'm interested to see exactly how this falls for this particular game. So Stage Tour coming December 10th, 2026. Next, Crazy Taxi World Tour. It's going to have multiplayer. This is an update from Crazy Taxi, which, hey, I am a fan of Crazy Taxi. I've never played that much Crazy Taxi, but I've always enjoyed doing what Crazy Taxi was literally designed for, which was arcades, funny enough. Which is playing like a round or two and just kind of bailing. That's always how I've played Crazy Taxi. I probably never played Crazy Taxi for more than like 30 to 45 minutes. It's probably the longest I've ever played Crazy Taxi for. I've always heavily enjoyed my time with Crazy Taxi whenever I get around to it, but I am never like this, oh, I got a marathon freaking Crazy Taxi. It's always just kind of a drop-in, drop-out game for me. In this case, very happy to see a return to form for them. A multiplayer inclusion is interesting. Hey, why not get your friends involved? I feel like no real poor reason to include a multiplayer version or mode in a game that, is probably going to be fine without it. Like, why not? If I like it, I like it. If I don't, I don't. And we can move on from there. So hopefully it's good and everybody enjoys it and we can, with your friends in perpetuity. So next, Turok Origins delayed to spring 2027. You want to shoot dinosaurs with a bow and arrow, you're going to have to wait a little bit longer. So nothing too new here outside of, hey, this game ain't coming. So I think that was something people were fairly certain about in general. Next, Gravhounds was a game that is from Octopus Panic, which is a studio with both Halo and Battlefield developers, only 7 people, which was very surprising to me because this game actually looks fairly robust for a 7-person team. You play as a group of dogs, anthropomorphic dogs, in space, and it feels very Deep Rock Galactic is kind of where I was getting the vibes from. You are going onto a planet. There's a lot of hordes of people, or not people, of aliens coming at you, and you have to shoot the frick out of them and mine things and take resources out in a kind of run like style of getting your stuff, taking it to your ship, and then leaving. At one point the character has like to play dead, because you're a dog, of course, and then all the enemies like ignore them in a situation where they certainly wouldn't have been able to survive that wave. So it's very traditional in terms of what you would expect, but there's a lot of elements here that look interesting and well executed. And if these developers are as good as their pedigrees may imply, then there could really be something here with Gravhounds. So look forward to it in early access. Next, Lego Skylines. The city builder Skylines? Maybe you'd want that in Lego form, just like everything apparently nowadays. I remember when I was a kid, Legos were cool. I loved Legos, all right? But I don't remember ever wanting like everything in my life to be Legos. What the frick happened? The Lego movie came out, and all of a sudden, everything under the sun has to have a Lego version, and apparently people really, really, really want it. And hey, more power to you if you still love Legos. Ain't no problem with that. But I don't know. That's just odd to me. Odd to me that everybody has to have a Lego version of everything now, and apparently that makes it better. Next, Transport Fever 3. Have you wanted to drive a train? I know we were just talking about driving cars. Have you ever wanted to drive a train across America? By God, you can do that on September 29th with Transport Fever 3. All these train sims, truck sims, all these things, these have a real audience somewhere. I've never met a soul who cares about any of these games, but apparently a lot of dads out there love them to death. Next, Exterminauts. Exterminauts is a Helldivers 2 like. That's pretty much it. It kind of looked like a Helldivers 2 meets No Man's Sky kind of situation. In general, great. I would love to see people leave either one of those two games to come to this one, but maybe the pairing is all they ever needed. Neither one of these games are games that I play regularly, so I probably will not play Exterminauts either. But hey, cool to see. Next, Path of Exile 2 is going to get a full release in 1.0. This is a Diablo-like that has gotten excellent reviews. 1.0, it's been in early access for what, like over a year now, and it's finally coming to 1.0. So very cool. It is very highly rated, currently in early access, critically, and amongst consumers as well. So it's going to be a good time. If you like that kind of game, there's a lot to love here. So enjoy. Next, Heroes of Might and Magic 3. I don't know anything about this game, but I've heard a lot about it. I don't care. Next, No Law from the developer that brought you Ascension. Is that what I'm thinking of? It's a cyberpunk first-person shooter game. In general, I am very skeptical about this because the original game, or the other games that this developer has made, are like isometric top-down games, and this is a very big departure for them in terms of a first-person shooter, open world almost looks like kind of game. RPG that's a big step up. That's a really big step up, and I don't know if this developer can handle it. So, No Law, if you are very desperate for any kind of cyberpunk setting, you got it, baby. But in this case, I'm still very skeptically holding my breath. Next, Ontos. I skipped a couple of games because I didn't even remember them. But next is Ontos, which, hey, I'm heavily looking forward to Ontos. I love Soma a lot. It's a great game with a great story, great execution on trying to really get the player to understand what the game's trying to tell it. And Ontos seems to be focusing on some colony on the moon in which you have to talk to a consciousness of rats. Hey, this looked interesting. It looked a little bit more puzzly than I remember the original Soma being. But hey, I am on board for it. I think it looks like it's already starting to try and convince me of some philosophical ideology that I didn't even consider prior to playing the game. So I'm very much interested in Ontos. It will be, weirdly, having a hands-on exclusive gameplay reveal on Jacksepticeye's YouTube channel today. As of you watching the or listening to the podcast, August 26th. So I guess go and check it out on Jacksepticeye's YouTube. That guy he's really become like a big deal. And I'm not even saying like, oh yeah, he's a very popular YouTuber. Like, he's really made his way into the corporate America. Like, Disney has this guy on like stages representing their company. Like, he's really kind of pivoted into not only being a YouTuber but being a company man. Like, he's a businessman. Like, a lot of he really does weaponize his audience for money. And hey, like, I don't think he's doing it in like a bad way or anything. Like, he's doing it in probably the best way you could. But like, I don't know, like, nobody's going to frickin' PewDiePie with these deals. No one's going to Markiplier with these deals. I'm sure they do go to Markiplier, and Markiplier takes them. They're kind of probably the exact same person. But in that case, hey, good for him. But Ontos still looking pretty freaking solid. I'm looking forward to it in 2027. Next, Pony Island 2 Panda Circus gets a release date for April 27th, 2027. So next year, there was a lot of debate online in the circles that I was in if this game was even coming out this year. There's a lot of conjecture around that. It looks like it's getting pushed, but the original Pony Island is a very interesting game. This developer has gone on to make a lot of games people really care about, including Inscription. So I can't imagine this game will be bad. It's certainly going to be a fun time, and it will have live action performances from Sungwon Cho, Arian Moyad, Caitlin Riley, and Kevin Saxby, who I only know I only know Sungwon Cho. He's an internet personality who's also gone on to be like an actor within anime and was almost in the Marvel Cinematic Universe in the canceled Squirrel Girl TV show. So just throwing that out there as a fun fact. But it looks like it has a much bigger budget than the original Pony Island. I've actually talked about the original Pony Island on the podcast before. One of our first episodes, one of my first impression pieces ever was Pony Island. So very short, interesting little game. I highly recommend it. It's probably only $1 if you find it on sale. So very, very worth your time. Very short game, very cheap game. So there's really no reason to say no. Next, more Zoo Punk. This is a game that's been shown off prior. It is still a cinematic trailer. It's a bunch of animals with guns. And next, there are no Ghosts at the Grand trailer. This is like the 15th trailer we've seen for There are no Ghosts at the Grand. Nothing. You learn nothing new here. Cool. Next, Rocco Kingdom. This is basically a Pokemon competitor. It is trying to be Pokemon in a very cozy setting. It's looking for a closed beta in October 27th. This is again more freaking Chinese garbage, so look forward to it. Next, The Defiant. We have more Chinese things. This is actually a different Chinese thing that I'm used to seeing, which I'm very happy about, which is The Defiant. The Defiant is a historical first-person shooter game which will feature stories of the Chinese battlefields on World War II. Hey, I like a good not even alternate history, but a different perspective than just like, yeah, we gotta go, the Americans are going to kill the Nazis. Like, that's typically what you see from a good World War II game. This is different. But of course, it's going to be made by the Chinese and probably have a lot of the Chinese government with a heavy hand talking about their politics and their perspective that they want other people to know. So, hey, keep that in mind. But in general, I think it's an interesting idea. Question mark. Link or Die. It's another Chinese game. It just looked like a squad-based shooter, and we're continuing on. We have the last two things here. So our big showstoppers. Thank God that this wasn't the showstopper, by the way. So we have Naoki Hamaguchi, the series director for Final Fantasy, coming out, and showing off more Final Fantasy VII Revelation. You say, Henry, you've loved Final Fantasy. In fact, both of the games were your number one games each year that they came out, respectively. Why are you acting like who gives a frick about this? Well, because what the frick did we learn here? What the frick did we see in the new Final Fantasy VII Revelation Gamescom's footage? Like, nothing. You really didn't learn a gosh darn thing. It's a cinematic trailer. This game is going to be very similar to both of the previous iterations because, hey, it's very short development cycles, which I really respect and I love, but it means that they're not going to reinvent the wheel every single time for each story, and that's fine. But at this point, it's like, okay, we know, we're going to have a couple of new party members, we're going to have the existing ones. We've kind of gotten the vast majority of the big changes at the Summer Games Fest footage, showing off, the new combat stuff, the party system, all that stuff, which is very interesting. And I appreciate seeing that, but this is just like, hey, the game's still coming out. Isn't that interesting? And I'm like, okay, I don't know if this needs to be like held to the very end. I know we're all very much looking forward to this game, glad it's coming out, but I feel like I need a little bit more to get excited. Like, I'm not that much of a freaking like fanboy, I'm not that much of a fanboy to just be like, oh, Final Fantasy, that's all I needed. It's here. It's like, okay, I need a little bit more. We need a little bit more here. I'm also very skeptical to see how they tie this whole story together. If you've played any of the games, you'll know that like they've been teasing this whole, oh, we're going to rewrite the timeline. This whole story is going to really change. And so far, nothing has changed. The entire story up to this point has been the exact same as anything else. They have teased a bunch of bullcrap and shown off, oh, yeah, we're going to change the story. And they never have. Nothing has freaking changed. So, hey, maybe in the final game, they will make having played through 2 games and being teased that the story is going to change. Like, that would be cool, but at this point, I genuinely don't trust them to do it. It's so weird that they've put so much emphasis on that, the whole thing, and nothing has come of it. But hey, maybe I'll be eating my words at the very end of this whole trilogy. We'll see. Next, and finally, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt Remastered is Gamescom big drop. The big mic drop moment for Gamescom 2026. And hey, it's a really cool deal. Hey, if you own the previous Witcher game 3, if you own Witcher 3 in any way, you will get this remastered version for free, which CD Projekt Red has been very generous, but they were very, very generous with this. This remake looks incredibly nice. We got increased visuals. We got better combat. We have increased enemy AI. We have a reworked skill tree. Anything you could have really imagined for this game to make it even better than it already was, which, let's be real, The Witcher 3 is really great because of its characters, its quests, and its world. All 3 of those things are, by far, honestly, some of the best of the 3 things that I just listed in the entire gaming, like, ever history. And that's great. Is the gameplay, like, crazy good? Nah, it's a little stiff. Let's be real. Gameplay's a little stiff. Could be better. It's not Batman Arkham Asylum here. It's not smooth as butter or anything like that. Is the skill tree probably a little obtuse? Yeah, probably a little bit. Probably could have been reworked a little bit. So, like, when I see these improvements, I'm like, hey, that's amazing. That's an incredible thing for them to go back and rework and try to make a little bit better. And it really gives me a lot of faith for 4 because it means that those improvements are likely going to be focused on and carried over for 4 as well. Which, by the way, if you have not bought the DLC, you will be automatically upgraded to the remastered version, which will include both of the DLCs for free. Amazing. Fantastic. Love to see it. Both of those DLCs are some of the best expansions in any game I've ever played. You have to play them if you have not already and you love The Witcher 3. So, all in all, this is an incredible announcement. If you have not bought the game yet, go and buy it on Steam right now for like $5 or something, and you'll just have access to it September 29th. Wow. Amazing deal there. Not only that, but they announced, hey, we're going to have one more expansion. This has leaked for some time now. It is not from CG Projekt Red. It is from ex-devs at a different studio. So you could argue that there's DNA there, that it could still be fairly good. But, I would still say, hey, great. I'm honestly happy to go back and revisit the world and have one last hoorah with Geralt, because we already know Witcher 4 is going to be focusing on Ciri, which, hey, who doesn't love Ciri? Great. Happy to have Ciri as a protagonist, but I am going to miss Geralt. I really got a very good familiarity with him. I loved him as a character in The Witcher 3, and I'm going to be sad to see him go. He's not going to be, my buddy throughout the entire journey in The Witcher 4, so that's unfortunate. Hopefully Ciri can fill the shoes very easily and be as lovable of a protagonist as Geralt was. But in this case, I'm just glad I get another last hoorah, send off, a passing of the torch, if you will, for Ciri to come and pick up in The Witcher 4. So, hey, no way I'm going to say no to this. It will be not free. They didn't say anything about that one being free, so you will pay money for that one. But hey, I think honestly, pretty solid deal overall. You really can't complain about it. And if I had the time, I would be going back and replaying The Witcher 3 in this remake version. The Witcher 3 is genuinely one of my favorite games ever made. So I have no issue wanting to go back to it. It's been a very long time, over a decade, since I played The Witcher 3 for the first time, and I wouldn't mind going back and just kind of reliving the journey. But it's such a long game, hundreds of hours long if you want to do everything in it, that it is just simply not feasible for me to be able to do that and also continue to play new games or new experiences that I haven't played yet, and I could love too. So it's just like maybe when I'm retired. Maybe at some point when I'm retired, I'll go back and play The Witcher 3. But hey, it's really cool that if you haven't played it yet, or if you do not have the same problem as me and you're like autistic and have to play every game that's ever come out, then you will love going back to this game or playing it for the first time. And I think that is an amazing deal. All in all, is this some big mic drop moment? Bro, it's probably one of the biggest things at this conference, a remake of a game. I mean, like that's fine. And it's not even like a huge remake. It's like we're just putting a lot of quality of life improvements in the game, which is great, but like come on. That's all we got here. I feel like a lot of this show was Chinese slop. I feel like a lot of this show was like, hey, remember this game that's coming out in 2 weeks? Here's another trailer. That's cool and all, but that's not worth getting excited about. It's not worth me being like, oh, this is one of the biggest conferences. I delayed the podcast a day to talk about this particular conference because I was like, it's going to be a big deal. Surely there's going to be a big talking point at some point where I'm going to have to talk about, ooh, this big reveal. Nope. There was really nothing here. I mean, the big opener was a Hoyoverse game, which looked kind of like Elden Ring and Monster Hunter, which, hey, great. For those who care, I'm not going to because I know it's a freaking free-to-play game, and I'm just not into that. And then the big showstopper was a remake of a game that came out 15 years ago, which is, again, hey, happy that that's happening. That's wonderful. But is it some big mic drop moment? No. Like, I could have seen that on Twitter and been probably equally as excited. I didn't have to watch it at some big reveal as a conference. Like, I could have just easily watched it on freaking a Twitter trailer or an announcement on a social media of some sort and been like, wow, that's really awesome that they're doing that, and just kind of left it at that. So everything in the middle just seemed like a waste of my time. Eyes glazed over. Honestly, I would give this like a D plus, C minus in terms of rating. Easily, like, my favorite thing I saw here was obviously The Witcher 3. My least favorite thing is the vast majority of what I saw. Like, it's all this Chinese AI slop that is being forced into these presentations. Hey, I get it. They have the money, and Jeff Keighley is trying to make this a profitable business venture. Good for him. But in general, I'm fairly disappointed with Gamescom Opening Night Live. Hopefully we get better stuff coming out throughout the week that's not like basically this whatever was trying to be shoved in this presentation. So all in all, hey, sorry I delayed the podcast today. Hopefully you don't look forward to it on Tuesdays that much. But hey, it is what it is. Now I have the fortune of going and starting to edit all of this and that'll take me a long time because it's probably going to be a long episode. So thank you for sticking around. Why am I thinking you still have more episode to go? What am I talking about? Get back to the episode. Hey, Henry from the past, take it back. All right, and we're back. How was that? Wow, I can't believe they announced Final Fantasy IX Remake. And what else is a highly anticipated game people want? The new 3D Super Mario game. Dang! That's crazy. These guys really went all out. But all right, so we're back. We're back to the present, and we're moving on to the impression segment after that incredibly, obviously impressive showing at Gamescom. Surely wasn't disappointing in any way, shape, or form. So, impressions this week are all about the Duskbloods. That's right. I got into the not so exclusive network test of the Duskbloods from Software's newest game that is exclusive to the Nintendo Switch 2 from the director of Dark Souls and Elden Ring. This is his new game. You may have been familiar with Elden Ring Night Rain, which was from Software's first multiplayer foray. It was about an 81 on Metacritic. Didn't do too hot. I think people kind of came more around to it later, but in general was considered to be somewhat disappointing considering From Software it makes some of the best games in the gaming industry. People weren't too enamored by their first multiplayer game. Elden Ring Nightwing was really just like, what if Elden Ring was like had a Fortnite like cloud of death that just pushes you to the center of the map the entire time? That was pretty much the entire premise of Elden Ring Night Rain, and I don't think it transitioned very well. It seemed a bit sloppy and thrown together. Not so with the Duskbloods. Now, something that was maybe a little bit sloppy, tiny bit, was the fact that nobody could get into the game the first network round. So there were several rounds or times that you could play the Duskbloods network test, and the first round was so overcrowded that nobody could get in. It was basically a complete wash. And then the second round I was able to get in, which I didn't even attempt the first round, I was busy. But the second round I was able to get in. And I did the tutorial and I played a couple of matches, and I'm going to tell you what I think. So the Duskbloods is way better than what I would have assumed Elden Ring Night Rain is. Now, to preface, I am not a multiplayer guy. I don't typically seek out multiplayer experiences. I'm not very good at video games, and therefore something like an Elden Ring meets multiplayer is like, that's a nightmare to me. Like, I can't imagine a more horrific scenario. However, if you give me a taste of this and I don't have to pay $60 for it, because let's be real, I would probably play this for a weekend and be like, yeah, that's fun, and then just never want to go back to it because people would have figured out the meta, they would have figured out how to be good at the game, people would have put 300 hours into it within the first week it came out, and I'd be like, oh, frick, well, there's no way I can catch up. I'm just going to get freaking railed every single time I pick up this game for the rest of its existence. I don't want to go back to this. And that's typically how my cycle with most multiplayer games go. So I've just kind of learned, hey, maybe I should just focus on a free beta period. I'll play it for as much as I want then, and then I'll be good. I won't have to worry about paying $60 and not really ever playing the game again. So in this case, I decided to do that. I went in, the tutorial took me a minute to get through. And I think this game has really not been shown off that much. People didn't know that much of how this game worked. And I now can tell you that I know how it works, because it's like, well, how do you transition? One, they've really done a number on the marketing here. Basically, they're like, oh yeah, there's like a million different ways that you can win, and including like marrying and proposing to your opponents, and it's like, what the frick, like, that is a high exaggeration. It's meant to make you go like, what the frick is this game, kind of deal, and look further into it. In this case, it is kind of a recipe for an interesting game, like I will say. So, in the tutorial, they kind of walk you through it. That's another thing I think From Software has had trouble with in the past, which is leading players in. How do you onboard players? Nintendo's a little bit better at this, so probably part of why they partnered with them for this game, as it is a Nintendo Switch exclusive. However, the tutorial is quite long. It took me like 45 minutes to get through the tutorial. You have to basically play the game 4 times with NPCs. And then you're basically dropped into the hub. You do more tutorials and so on and so forth. Here's where it gets weird. Is like, what even is this game? Okay, so let's start from there, because I'm even struggling, as you can surely tell. Where do I even begin to talk about the Duskbloods? The Duskbloods is a PvP VE game that is similar to most FromSoft games. You are dropped into a map that has bosses and mobs and other players that can kill you. Here's the thing, is it's far more forgiving about the 99% of that stuff. You can die, you keep all your stuff. Experience, everything. You keep everything if you die. If a player kills you, you lose nothing. There is no problem with a player killing you. The only thing it does is give that player points, which in the grand scheme of things is where things get a little bit tricky, is how you earn points. So, you're saying, okay, I'm in a FromSoft game. I'm dropped into like a small confined map. What do I do? Well, you can do 1,000,001 things. So you can go and hunt down other players. You have the ability to have a general idea of where players are on the map. You can find them. The maps aren't that big. They are big enough that you will run across other players. They are small. They're small enough that you will run across other players. They are big enough so that you can avoid other players and possibly never even interact with one throughout an entire match, which is interesting. So that's actually how I played my first round of the Duskbloods. Was I saw that there was an area that most players had not gone to, and so I went to it thinking that I could get items that other people weren't in contention for or something like that. And I ended up doing fairly well in that match until the very end of the match, which it can flip around. So there's like 15 different ways that you can earn points in this game. You can kill mobs. And if you have killed the most enemies, just random enemies in the game, you will get a significant number of points for just being the person who's killed the most that round. If you collect enough stuff, literally if you pick up enough items off the ground, you will be given like a bonus that will possibly put you very close to the top in the boards for the round. If you fight bosses, you can then fight them. Like, you can get points for fighting a boss and beating a boss. If you do little King of the Hill style areas that you can then essentially are going to obviously attract other player characters, and they're going to come and try to fight you for it. But if you win one of those, like, you'll get something there. There's little missions that you can do amongst them. Like, there's all sorts of different stuff that you can do to potentially earn points throughout a round. And I should mention rounds, so there are multiple rounds in the game. And each round, essentially players are sent to go and just do whatever they feel is necessary to earn points. So I've already described several various ways that you can earn points. Some of them involve interacting with other players. Some of them have nothing to do with interacting with other players. So if you are at the bottom of the totem pole in terms of all the players on the map, then you will be kicked. You will lose the match. And only the top 3 players at the end of every game will essentially be sent to a death match where you all have to duke it out to see who wins. And depending on who wins that death match will be the victor of the game. So it is very possible for you to run off and do your own thing and play your own game until the very last moment in which you have to engage with PvP combat. So while they do try to tout this game as like, well, you can play it your own way and you don't ever really have to engage with other players. It's like, well, you will. Like, you have to. In order to decide a winner, you will have to eventually beat the frick out of somebody. Now, that being said, you can potentially gain more experience for doing all that other stuff. And if you gain experience and level up the most, you will have the best advantage when you fight everybody, because levels obviously indicate how much health you have, how much strength you have, defense. And so if you're a level 50 player going up against a level 80 player, you're at a pretty significant disadvantage within the game. On top of that, a huge thing that I noticed is this game has incredibly nimble movement. There is not just a super jump. There is a super jump on top of a triple jump. Yes, you heard me. If you do a super jump, if you hold down the jump button, you can do a super jump. If then you then press the jump button 3 more times, you will continue to jump, which is insane. Because freaking most FromSoft games don't even have a jump button, yet alone have any kind of way to jump 4 freaking times on top of a super jump. Like, that's incredible. That's an astonishing amount of movement. Swinging your armament does not reduce stamina. Dodging does not reduce stamina. Like, you are incredibly nimble. You are incredibly all over the place. And honestly, I was afraid when I was doing the tutorial. I was like, I don't even want to know what combat is going to look like in this game, because people are going to be jumping all over the place. They're going to be dodging all over the place. There's really no penalty for it. And because, like, really the star of the show here is PvP, in terms of that's the main course, they really don't focus on punishing the player as much with all the PvE stuff. So really the PvE stuff is certainly a focal point for the game, but it's also like taking a backseat to everything at the same time. It's a weird combo. This game is certainly a unique formula that is something I've never seen done before. And you're saying, Henry, okay, cool. Is there a real draw here? And I'm going to say, actually, yes. There was one element of these games that really blew me away, and that was the co-op. And you may have immediately raised an eyebrow and say, Henry, this is a PvP game. PvPvE game. What the frick are you talking about? Co-op. Co-op is a significant part of the PvE in terms of basically in those first 3 phases before you get to the final deathmatch phase. You can at any point come across another player and you can propose an alliance with them. And when you do this, all points that you gain together will be shared, and you cannot kill each other. So you're basically working together now against the rest of the game. And it is an incredibly advantageous position to be in. Now, that being said, you can leave the alliance at any time, but you will be heavily penalized. So a portion of your HP, and I'm not just talking about you'll take a hit of damage, your permanent health bar will go to your companion, whoever your alliance was with. And then you will, like, that's essentially your penalty. So they will be permanently buffed, and you will be permanently debuffed by leaving an alliance. So obviously, at the end of the game, how the frick do you have 2 people go against like one person in a 1v3? Like, that doesn't make sense. Well, that's because every single alliance is automatically disbanded by the time you get to the final round, which is crazy. So essentially, you are highly incentivized to work with somebody that you have to kill. You must kill them by the end of the game. You are also incentivized to work with people even when not in teams. So there are super bosses on in the map. And if somebody interacts with a super boss and attempts to attack it and fight it, every single player on the map will be given a opportunity to fight that boss as well with everyone else who accepts the invitation that is given out to all players automatically. So essentially, you will have to help this person fight the boss. You will all get an equal reward if you are able to kill the boss together. And I find that to be a fascinating way of like essentially trying to force people to balance, should I help this person or should I not help this person? And the ultimate answer to that question a majority of the time is yeah, I should totally help this person. Like there should really never be an instance in this game in which the meta is F that guy. I don't want anything to do with them. It really does seem like the majority of the best possible strategy is if somebody in the map needs your help, you should probably help them. You should probably find somebody very early on in the game and make an alliance with them, and you will be at a significant advantage. And if people don't want to do that, that's fine, but they will have to probably avoid people in an alliance because they're just going to double team them. Like, it doesn't make sense for you to not be in an alliance. If you are given the opportunity to fight a boss, if you think that that is an opportunity that people will legit be able to kill the boss, you should take it because you'll get a really good bonus. Like, it is a weird balance of, yeah, you should really want to kill everybody and never really want to help anybody. And also, working together is easily the most advantageous point that you can be within the game, which is, I think, it honestly geniusly laid out within the game. I love it. Really, really do love it. And it puts me in this weird position of like, okay, what the frick is Duskbloods? Like, is it a co-op game? Is it a PvP game? Is it an PvE game? It's certainly not a single player game. And that I think is an interesting segment as well. It seems like the game still does have a story. So like when you start the game, you are put into a linear story segment where you have to like fight a boss, like in a traditional FromSoft fashion. You'll probably lose, and it sets up the story for the game, which is odd considering none of the rest of the game seems to be like that. There's still elements of this beta that were blocked off. I couldn't access within the hub. It seems like there's some stuff in the hub that I wasn't able to interact with that seems fairly important. And there could be an ongoing narrative or story, which is a large part of what From Software games are. But in general, as somebody who a large portion of me does not love the competitive aspects of PvP. Like, I don't love knowing that everybody is probably better than me at PvP, and I'm just going to get bent over a barrel the instant I start a game. It really is much nicer to know, oh, well, if I so choose, I can have a teammate. If I so choose, I can help other people. If I so choose, I can work with other people to get stronger within the game. And that is a fascinating dichotomy within a multiplayer game that I'm genuinely fascinated by. And the way that they've tried to balance it and make it work is really chaotic. I mean, it took me probably like freaking 20 minutes just to describe all the elements you really need to know about Duskbloods in order to make it make any sense. And that's why I think this game has been so hard for people to describe in terms of before it's come out. We haven't seen anything for it. So like all of the marketing jargon that the company has been saying about this game has made no sense. And understandably so. It's taken me a freaking half an hour just to explain what the frick the game is. But I will say this. Duskbloods balances PvP, PvE, co-op in a way that I have never seen done before. It is absolutely fascinating to me. I loved teaming up with somebody. I loved helping other people fight bosses. I loved going off on my own and doing my own thing and coming back and seeing where all these other players were, what's their strategy, how are they going to handle this. At the end, like maybe I've been working with somebody and I finally come back and it's like, okay, well now we have to see like which one of us truly is the better man. Like, well, let's go combat mano a mano and finally settle this match. Like, I think the movement in this game is great. I love the freedom. I love the combat in general. It's much more forgiving in a lot of ways. I love the fact that if you die, nothing really happens to you. It may benefit other players, but nothing happens to you. I expected a From Software game to be far more punishing. And this feels far more accessible than possibly any other From Software game I've ever played, and far more friendly than any other From Software game I've ever played. Now, I'm still a single player first gamer. I don't foresee myself putting hundreds of hours into this game, probably even ever picking it up personally, but I think from a multiplayer perspective, this is fascinating. This could be an excellent time. I think after Night Rain, Elden Ring Night Rain, this was like a potential flop. And now I'm genuinely curious about it. I'm genuinely interested. And I want to see what people end up coming to think of the Duskbloods. Because I think it's certainly going to be better than Night Rain. Certainly going to be better. And we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening here. But I am pleasantly surprised by the Duskbloods. You can see it maybe sometime this year. Who knows? They are still not very open about a release date on this sucker. But hey, maybe it'll be this year. Cross your fingers. Maybe GTA doesn't scare them away. All right. And that will wrap it up for this episode. I don't know how long the episode is yet because I'm not done with it, but you are. That's right, you, the loyal listener to the very end. I appreciate you greatly, friend. I thank you very much for sticking around this long into the episode. I hope you are having a good day, a good week, a good month, a good year, perhaps even. I hope you're playing some good video games, and I hope to see you next time. Bye-bye!